This is not a how to move to Germany video. This is what actually happens when you leave India, struggle as a student, adapt to a new culture, and build your life from zero. Hi, my name is Harshit Goyal. I'm an Indian expat living in Germany, and this channel is simply a space where I share experiences, not advice, and definitely not instructions. 8 years ago, I moved from India to Germany after getting admission to Technical University of Munich for my masters. It was my first time leaving India, my first time living alone, and honestly, my first real exposure to a completely different way of life. The feeling was immense pride when I got the admission letter. All these months preparing for the application, getting the documents notarized, and passing the international standard exams all felt like climbing a long ladder and reaching the top finally. But the actual story just started. Getting a student Schengen visa was a journey in itself, all while having the fear that I might get rejected. But as they say, where there is a will, there is a way. I got my visa approved, and from there, the shopping spree started. As the date started approaching, there was this little uneasiness that I was feeling, and I realized that I won't be seeing my family anymore. I won't be hanging out with my friends anymore. I guess I had started to accept this fact, and somehow I believed my parents were starting to as well. Landing in Germany and coming out of the airport, it sounds a little bit cliche, but the first thing I remember and I realized it was how fresh the air was. Fortunately, I decided to take part in the 1 month orientation program from the university before the start of the semester, and I cannot stress this enough how good it was and how beneficial it proved to me. For that month, my accommodation was sorted, the transportation was sorted, my health insurance and everything else was sorted. And I got to meet these amazing people from all around the world and made some really lifelong friends. I felt everything was like a breeze until the orientation program ended and I got to deal with the infamous German bureaucracy. The constant dancing around, opening a bank account, getting health insurance, and finding a roof over your head, it really toils you. It tests your patience, it hits you hard, and it is very disheartening. I remember standing in the queue at about 4 a.m. in the morning in minus something degrees outside the foreigner's office to get an emergency appointment to extend my initial visa. The first thought that really comes into mind that despite being a developed nation, the bureaucracy here is very slow and lethargic. While managing all these, I was equally excited to start my semester. I had the option to choose my electives, so I wanted to try out the interesting ones. The lectures were not what I was used to. There was no spoon feeding. You were expected to know stuff beforehand. You were expected to read the material beforehand. I definitely was, for the first time ever in my life, not one of the smartest people in the room. The studies were challenging, they were engaging, highly practical, and a lot more time taking. I was, nervous, but in a very good way. I got to learn a lot from my peers as well as my professors. When I failed a subject in the first semester itself, it really changed something within me. I never experienced that in my life before. I felt as if something hit my gut, but I guess I needed that to work on my examination and learning strategy. And do not even get me started on the master's thesis. In Germany, as a requirement for your degree, you need to write and present and submit your thesis. And I kid you not, the thesis really sucked my blood. I was in constant stress and anxiety. For me, that was the hardest part of my master's. And I'm so glad I don't have to do it ever again. I moved to Germany with only the blogged account, like the many of us. I made a decision to not ask my parents anymore for money after it was over, and I would have to sustain my survival on my own. I started to look for part time jobs as well as applying for both white collar as well as blue collar jobs. I would be lying to myself if I do not confess this now, but I was a bit hesitant to apply for any blue collar job. I was of the opinion that I am highly qualified and I'm a lot better than this, and this is beneath me, but boy, was I so wrong. And I'm really, really glad I have evolved myself to look above this. I've learned to appreciate that no work is small and everyone is doing their bit to survive in this world. We need to be kind and grateful, and I would give all this credit to Germany. This led to another realization, which now in hindsight makes a lot of sense. I should have worked on my German a lot more than I did. Speaking very little German really affected my application. I was getting so many rejections, it was at one point quite unbearable. Eventually, I got the job of a food delivery guy. I was excited because it was my first job ever. I bought a second hand bike for it. I had a shift schedule, and to be honest, I really started to appreciate the delivery guys. I could resonate with them now since I myself was eagerly expecting tips with all the hope in my eyes, and whenever I got it, I slept very happy. I also worked in inventory at a clothing store for about a year. That was a very fun experience as well. I could till date fold my clothes extremely professionally because of this. All this ended when I finally got a working student job related to my field at one of the leading companies in Germany. There, I worked for about 1.5 years and got to experience my first German corporate culture. I would urge anyone listening to don't think and just do whatever opportunity life throws at you. Because of these jobs, I was really able to understand the importance of hard earned money. I was able to travel around Europe, meet new people, and have new experiences. This reality helped me to evolve the man who I am today. While finishing on my thesis, I'd also started applying for jobs as well in my last semester. It was corona times on top of it, so getting a full time job was even more difficult than usual. Applying to 100 jobs a day and getting rejected from almost each one of them, it's not something everyone can bear. You need to be really strong willed, resilient, and consistent. I found that the interview process in Germany is a bit different than what I have heard of back in India. Here, usually only 2 to 3 rounds are conducted, and the focus is more on your communication skills and your technical know how rather than those traditional and tedious coding rounds if it is a technical job. I guess and I believe this really differentiates the good candidates from the ones who might have lied on their CV because if you know it, you can explain it. After weeks of this constant struggle, I was successful and I got an offer to join one of the biggest companies in Germany and Europe as an IT developer. I was over the moon, and in that moment, I felt as if I had achieved what I came here for. At this point, I won't stress much on changing the visa from student to full time, getting a blue card, and eventually getting the PR because it's well known and there are multiple sources, and everybody knows the bureaucracy here in Germany. It takes its time here, and we just need to be patient. What I want to talk about is the work culture. As a working student, I was not really able to grasp and understand the complete image of how the things work and how the working culture is. But working as a full time employee, you get the hang of it. Here, work is not your life, but just a part of it. People give importance to the personal life. Work life balance is appreciated and encouraged. Colleagues here like to share their personal lives, and usually everyone is approachable. The flat hierarchies are encouraged, and you can be friends with your colleagues as well. This is something which I have genuinely started to appreciate. There's mutual respect no matter the age and or position. This is the beauty of the German corporate system. I believe if you have the competence, the system really respects you. You can be fearless and disagree with your manager, but still be the MVP in your team. Within my 5 years in the company, I moved around within and currently have completely switched my domain from being an IT developer to being an European natural gas shift trader. I've found that the loyalty is much more appreciated here than switching to different companies. This is usually frowned upon. I had the hunger to learn and to improve myself and be at the center of the action. This led to me moving around different departments before ending up at my current position. Beyond the career, I started noticing the invisible pros, the way people respect your time and your space. Suddenly, the whole of Europe was my backyard. One weekend I'm in Paris, the next week I'm hiking somewhere in the Alps. Yes, the taxes are high, but the peace of mind knowing that the social services are there in case I fall, that's a freedom a lot of us we don't often have back home. The stability the system provides, the non toxic work culture where you are respected and treated like an equal, it all felt really nice. Enough that in 2025 I did something unthinkable. In 2025, I did the unthinkable for a guy who once delivered pizzas on a bike. I bought an apartment. Buying property here in Germany is a marathon of notas, Finanzamt letters, and bank meetings. But it taught me about my long term thinking of this country. It's not about flipping houses, it's about building the foundation. I've gone from feeling isolated and missing home to realizing that I've built a new home and a future that I actually own. My journey is just one version of the Desi in Deutschland experience. There are so many layers that I have not touched. The dating scenes, the deep dive into salaries, the tax hacks, and the legal hurdles. That's why this channel is evolving. I will be bringing in guests for podcast style sessions who have seen different shades of Germany, which I have not. If you want the raw truth, subscribe. Let's build this community together. Drop a comment. What's the biggest thing holding you back from moving or settling here in Germany? I am Harshit Goyal. Welcome to Parathas and Schnitzel. Cheers!